is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
Monday night, prior to Game 1 of Toronto versus Detroit, Leaf coach Pat Burns offered a prophecy.
There's no doubt about that the Detroit Red Wings can end your dreams in about 10 minutes if you let them play that style of wide open hockey that they want to play.
Coffey's left wing pass back in front. Shepard scores! Shepard! The Red Wings get a break. Sean Burr, he's in. Scores! Burr! 3 Red Wings go for the net. Robert, one of them. The shot by Chiasson. Out it comes to Yzerman. The net empty at the other end. Yzerman centered. Score! Mark Howell makes it 5-1.
For Pat Burns and the Maple Leafs, a nightmare in Motown. The Wings score 4 goals in 9 minutes and 2 seconds. Detroit wins 6-3. Now the original 6 rivals are set to reconvene their series at Joe Louis Arena, Detroit. Game 2 of the Norris Division semifinals, live from Michigan. And that's the scene in the hallway that was so active 2 nights ago with Pat Burns and Mike Kitchen walking about. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, we had a look inside the room the other night. Not tonight. Everything's quiet on that front as we await the arrival of the Leafs. Of course, Red Wings supporters are pretty pleased about what they saw from their crew on opening night. That 3-goal victory was most indicative of the way the evening went. Detroit in command all night long, especially after that 10-minute outburst in the second period. Well, not everybody's really excited for the start of the game, but they will be in a couple of minutes when the teams arrive. Good evening and welcome to Molson Hockey Night in Canada in the 1993 Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC. I'm Ron McLean. Game 2 of Detroit and Toronto. The Wings won handsomely, so what do the Leafs have to do? They're coming back with Felix Potvin. Burns huffed at any insinuation he'd make a change in goal, said he wasn't blaming Potvin for Monday night, wouldn't make a change tonight. There are some changes, however, for the Leafs, and one intriguing one. 34-year-old Mike Foligno, who began his NHL career as a Red Wing, will suit up tonight. He had a great run when this building first opened. He scored a hat-trick in the last game ever played at the Olympia. In the first game at Joe Louis Arena, he was the #1 star despite a loss to St. Louis. Then he added another hat-trick in the second game ever played here. Well, 2 nights ago, Mike was watching. I spoke to him about the Leaf effort that evening and about tonight.
Well, I think we may have been a little bit hesitant, first game, and it's in their barn, and they're sitting at home and sort of comfortable, and we're coming in, and a lot of guys on our team haven't been in the playoffs for a couple of years. I think first game was the first game jitters, and I think that we all realize we can play a lot better, and I think tonight's going to be a good example of that.
Mike, the first game ever played at Joe Louis Arena was in 1979. You were the #1 star for Detroit that night. Tell me about nights here and whether you expect history can repeat.
Well, let's put it this way. We hope history will repeat itself. And I've had a lot of good days in this rink and good memories. I enjoy playing here, and I think that that might be a little bit of confidence that I personally need to get me over the hump and get me contributing to my team.
Mike Foligno is in for Mark Osborne, who has rib damage, and Nikolai Borshevsky's out with a cracked orbital bone, so that means Dave McElwain of Seaforth, Ontario, makes his first start of the playoffs for the Maple Leafs. And also for Toronto News regarding Todd Gill, there was some concern about the fact his back was acting up. Gill tried it in the warm-up, and as I understand it, will play for the Leafs tonight. Kent Manderville was called up from St. John's. In the event that Gill couldn't go, they might use Baumgartner on defense and put Kent up front, but that won't happen. Pat Burns, as you see, pacing again tonight. As for Detroit, a quick comment about their win the other night. The key was their 3rd and 4th line, as Don Cherry predicted. Shepard and Burr chipped in, and on defense, of their 33 shots, 18 were from rear guards. They accounted for 7 points, including 3 goals. Here comes Toronto, here comes Detroit for their thoughts on tonight. Upstairs to the booth, Bob Cole and Harry Neale.
Thank you, Ron. Well, I don't think I'd get very many arguments if I said the Toronto Maple Leafs played with very little enthusiasm in the first game on Monday, but let's give credit where credit is due. Detroit was fabulous in just about every department, and a good team will make you look like that, will they not? And I don't know if Brian Murray was so happy with the matchups. A lot of talk about matchups. Fedorov stopping Gilmore. That didn't work, but it didn't matter.
Well, that one matchup wasn't quite as successful for Brian Murray as he thought it might be. The Gilmore line had 2 points. They had 7 shots. They were a combined +2. The Fedorov line, no points, 7 shots, and a -2. A more important matchup I saw develop was Chason and Konstantinov against Gilmore. Konstantinov was tough. He was mean. He was aggressive. He was in Gilmore's face all night. Number 16, Konstantinov.
I mentioned Detroit was great in all departments, the physical department included. And when you think of the physical department in the Red Wings, of course, you think about Bob Probert.
I thought he was the most menacing player on the ice in Game 1. He went to the net and nobody could move him. He was instrumental in that goal. All Potvin could see was his rear end. He was impossible to take out, and he threw some of the better body checks all night. He's lost 12 pounds in the last 6 weeks working out with Paul Coffey. He's leaner, he's meaner, he's quicker, and he is going to be in the face of all Leafs tonight, and he may be, well, the toughest guy in this league.
This Detroit Red Wing team is a good one. Make no mistake about that. The Leafs have a tough task. Ron?
Thank you, fellas. To tell you the truth, it's pretty quiet at Joe Loup right now. The only ones more anxious than the fans would be the Octopi. There's Felix Potvin. Obviously, Felix wants a big game tonight. And Wendell Clark, we'll talk about this as the night moves along, but the papers were really on Clark, saying he wouldn't show up to face Bob Probert. One newspaper column had Toronto doing triple axles rather than playing it tough, and they said that Detroit fans were calling Wendell Wendy. So there's a little bit of animosity in the newspapers, as you might expect. And Steve Yzerman, of course, got the Wings started in Game 1, scoring that goal at 4:48 to kick things off. Detroit and Toronto. On paper, it was a beauty, and it still is. The Wings aren't gloating. Pat Burns says they ought to be if we don't play better in Game 2 tonight. The Maple Leafs and the Red Wings next. Game 2 of the North semifinals on Molson Hockey Night.